Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're so glad to have you joining us today for our Stanford LEAD webinar on a new type of leader. And we're live just a couple of minutes early because we wanted to give you a chance to settle in, get comfortable. We're looking forward to an engaging session here together today. And we hope that some of you will also join us on camera. We always love to see the faces of the folks behind the names that are here with us today. So if you'd like to join us on camera, you'll see a raise hand icon on your screen. Go ahead and click that and give our team just a moment. We'll give you access to the camera so that you can turn that on and join us here. As we get started, I also encourage you to open up your chat box and say hello. We have such great global representation in the LEAD program, and I've noticed through your registrations for this webinar that that's also true here. So please feel free to say hello. Tell us which part of the world you're dialing in from so we can get a sense of the global representation here in the room today as well. All right. And I see that a few more folks have joined us even just in the last few seconds. So welcome. Super excited to get started here in just 1 minute. As we get started, would love to have more of you join us on camera so we can see some of your faces. So if you'd like to join us, click that raise hand icon on your screen and we'll give you permission to the camera. Now, if you open up your chat box, you'll also see that folks are saying hello, introducing themselves, telling us which part of the world they're dialing in from. So please feel free to join in. And it's incredible. I see that there are folks from Brazil, from Vienna, from different parts of California, from Kuwait, from Georgia, the country, Mexico, South Korea, Nigeria, Singapore, Wisconsin, Ghana, New York, Philippines, Australia. Amazing. So that also means it's all different times of the day, and we appreciate you all making the time to be here with us. But I'll go ahead and get started so that we can make the most of our time together here. And I just want to start by extending a very warm welcome to each of you. My name is Marina, Program Director for Stanford LEAD here at the Graduate School of Business. And on behalf of our entire team at Stanford, we're so glad to have you with us today. As we get started, I just want to take a moment to offer a bit of context on how our discussion today fits within the bigger picture of Stanford GSB, and particularly with executive education. Now, at the Graduate School of Business, we offer a wide range of executive programs, and that's for leaders at all stages of their careers. This includes everything from short, self-paced online courses to longer on-campus programs that run for 1 or several weeks, and they focus on topics like leadership, innovation, strategy, and more. And within this portfolio, we have two flagship programs that really capture the depth and the impact of what we do. The first of these is the Stanford Executive Program, or SEP. And this is designed for senior executives that are leading at the highest levels of their organizations. And it's offered in two formats. There is one that's fully on campus in the California summer sunshine for 6 weeks, and one in a hybrid format with 2 weeks on campus, 10 weeks online, and 2 more weeks on campus to close it out. Now, the second program, called Stanford LEAD, brings together both senior leaders as well as mid-career professionals for a fully online, year-long learning experience that gives you the opportunity to engage deeply with Stanford without taking a break from your day-to-day commitments. Now, each of our programs is led by a faculty director, and while the faculty directors for LEAD and SCP couldn't join us live today, they did ask me to share a short video message that they put together to give you a bit of insight into the vision behind each of these programs. So I'll go ahead and I'll play that short video for you now.
Hello, I'm Bill Barnett, Faculty Director of the Stanford Executive Program, known as SEP, and Professor of Leadership, Strategy, and Organizations here at the Stanford Graduate School of Business.
And I'm Peter DiMarzo, Faculty Director of the Stanford LEAD online program and a Professor of Finance at the GSB. Together, SEP and LEAD embody Stanford's vision for executive education.
At Stanford, we think about executive learning as transformation, not just information. The Stanford Executive Program has been a part of the Graduate School of Business for more than 7 decades. It was founded on a bold idea that senior executives could transform the way they lead by stepping out of their routines and immersing themselves in deep reflection, learning, and conversation. Both the formal education and the informal aspects of the Stanford Executive Program are crucial in changing the lives and trajectories of the executives who come and take part in it. Over the years, the Stanford Executive Program has become a defining experience for senior executives from all over the world. Whether you're here on campus for all 6 weeks of the traditional summer program, or if you're part of the flex format of that program, which has much more flexible scheduling, the goal is the same: to create a space for reflection, connection, and growth. What goes on here changes how leaders think about themselves and their organizations. It changes the trajectory of their careers.
Our flagship program LEAD builds on that legacy. When we launched LEAD over a decade ago, our goal was to take the essence of what happens here at Stanford and make it accessible everywhere to a broad spectrum of professionals at different stages of their careers without losing the interactivity and rigor that make learning here so distinctive. In LEAD, participants engage with faculty and a global community of peers week after week, applying insights directly to the challenges they face at work, so the learning becomes part of how they lead. That ongoing cycle of learning and applying is what makes it so powerful. It's transformation in real time.
Whether leaders join us in person or online through SEP or through LEAD, what unites them is a shared curiosity and motivation to grow.
Exactly. Different pathways, same purpose. Developing principled, innovative leaders who change lives, change organizations, and change the world.
All right, everybody. Well, as you heard, both SEP and LEAD reflect the GSB's commitment to rigorous learning, to meaningful connection, and to real leadership growth. And our focus in today's webinar is going to be on the LEAD online program, which is actually celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And in that time, it's proven to offer such a rich and transformative learning experience for thousands of professionals that's reflective of just the best of GSB. Now, of course, all of the courses in LEAD are taught by the same senior tenured faculty who teach across our MBA and our executive programs. And in LEAD, they teach their courses using an experiential model with hands-on assignments that let you apply the concepts that you're learning right away so that you see the real-time results. Now, within each of your courses, you'll also receive individualized feedback and coaching from a course facilitator who will really help you stretch and get the most out of the program. Now, in addition to learning from the faculty, the course facilitators, you'll also be learning from your community of peers. While it's a fully online program, LEAD is very social, super connective, and it connects participants from a diverse set of personal and professional backgrounds within this really rich environment where you'll have chances to engage with one another and really deepen and expand your perspective on the topics that are being covered. Now, the folks who invest in this program come back to share incredibly strong results and such inspirational stories about how they have grown and transformed. And a little later in today's session, we'll hear from 2 past participants who have kindly volunteered their time to share about their program experience and outcomes. So we're looking forward to giving you just a small taste of that LEAD learning experience today. And to do that, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Jennifer Aaker and Naomi Bagdonas, who together co-teach a course in the LEAD program called A New Type of Leader. Now, in the program, they're supported by a team of course facilitators, and we're thrilled to have Spencer Porter from that team to support your learning in this session as well. So thank you all so much for your time. And Jennifer and Naomi, I will turn it over to you so we can go ahead and dive in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. We are so happy to be here. So Naomi and I, as you could tell, are both here at Stanford. It's very rainy where I am, but on the other side of campus,
It's
where
really
Naomi
sunny,
is, it's really sunny.
incredibly sunny over here.
It's so, yeah, California. So I'm going to share my screen. We are going to share a little bit of content from a body of our work. And so this is, if you think about it, just a, a small little glimpse to give you a taste of this work. We're just going to start it off with something that we all kind of know and feel that we're living in unusual times. We know that technology is fueling massive change. And so the way that we're operating both at work and also in life has really felt substantially different in many regards. That's very exciting in some ways, but it also creates a sense of uncertainty and sometimes fear. Are we going to be, eliminated in this new wave of technology and agents? Or how are we going to change our workflow? We also see that general well-being has been on the decline over the last 15 years, certainly among our teens. But even in the workforce, this idea of human connection being something that's hard to grasp post-COVID has been also something rising. And then trust. Global trust has been on the decline for about 20 years. And it's trust in our leaders, it's trust in our companies, it's trust in our systems, it's trust in the data that we see in our day-to-day. And so the question is, how do we really navigate that moving forward? And what we find in our research is that the way we lead in our workplaces, but also even in our families, is really different. It used to be that leaders needed to be sort of respected and revered. And now they really need to authentically connect. And that tends to be something that drives team performance, organizational performance, and again, even relationships more generally. So what we're going to do today is take a journey fueled by behavioral research to unpack how and why we lead with levity, infuse humor, yes, humor, into our work relationships, and why that leads to higher performing teams, organizations, and improves actually life. Our class will improve your life. So,
And it starts today. But first, a quick story. So for those who are on camera, is anyone a fan of the Golden State Warriors? Anyone raise your hand? Okay, we got some hands. Is anyone a fan of the NBA more broadly? You watch the NBA? Great. And then raise your hand if you know what the sport of basketball is. Yeah, okay, great. So this is going to relate to everyone here, which is fantastic. So one of the leaders that we're very lucky to work with is Stephen Curry, who is a point guard on the Warriors. And we were talking with Stephen about the moments in his career that had the biggest shifts, that had the most significant impact. And we weren't even talking about humor in this conversation, but he told us about this moment from the 2014-15 season of the Warriors. It was Coach Kerr's first season as coach of the Warriors. And as context, if you remember, the Warriors hadn't won a title in 40 years at this point. And so they had started the league, they had started the season off strong, but they had then had a series of crushing losses against the Celtics, the Grizzlies, and everyone sort of looked around and thought, okay, well, how in the world are we gonna dig out of this hole? And so after a game one day, the players piled into the bus, like they always did, to get driven to the practice facility. But they noticed that the bus took a wrong turn. And all of the players started looking at each other, thinking, okay, what's going on? Where are we going? Coach Kerr didn't say a word. And so after about 15 minutes, they pulled up to this enormous auditorium. Coach Kerr led them in. And when they walked into the auditorium, there were 15 ping pong tables set up. And Coach Kerr said, today, we're not going to talk about basketball. We're not going to think about basketball. We're certainly not going to play basketball. We are just going to have some fun together. And so that's exactly what they did. They used this practice time in a really important moment, in a moment of incredible uncertainty for the team about how they were going to turn this season around. And they just played together. And by the way, Klay Thompson was not allowed to play because he's like a professional ping pong player or something. It was very unfair. But they had fun together and they played. And after this tournament, Coach Kerr took them into the back room and he said, I want you all to just have a conversation about what you want out of this season, because it's not about what I want. It's not about what what your fans want. What do you want out of this season? And he shut the door. And Stefan said that it was in that conversation when the players were able to have the most authentic, the most real, and really conversation that led to real progress for the team. And that was a turning point in the season. And by the way, after they had just laughed together. And so this was a huge turning point in the season. The Warriors actually went on to win their first title in 40 years. And for the next 6 out of 8 years, they would make it into the finals. Now, we often think of these moments of levity and play as being superfluous or as being nice to have, or yeah, they feel good, but are they really helping us practically? And we know from the research that moments like this, like what Coach Kerr created, have monumental impact, not just on perceptions of someone as a leader, but on the cohesion of a team. So leaders with a sense of humor, any sense of humor, are seen as 27% more motivating. Their teams report being 15% more engaged, and they're significantly more creative in a problem-solving challenge. And so we want to talk to you a bit about how humor is a competitive advantage from a behavioral science perspective.
And remember what Naomi just said, any sense of humor. The bar is so low.
Very low.
And this will change your life. Okay, so one of our favorite studies is as follows. There's a researcher that went into the lab with a Confederate, someone who was working with them, and put people into 2 conditions. One condition is where people came into the lab and negotiated with this Confederate over a piece of art. And the Confederate said to the subject afterwards, okay, we're going to negotiate, and my final offer is X. In the second condition, the Confederate said to a different set of subjects, my final offer is X, and I'll throw in my pet frog. In those 2 conditions, which one do you think led to more money being offered by the subject? Well, this is a class on humor, and so we're going to probably suggest it may be the pet frog. But here is the really remarkable thing. Subjects paid 18% more at the end of the day for that art piece. Not only that, but they also reported to enjoy the task more. They had reduced tension in the room and increased likability for the Confederate. Now let it really sink in just how bad that joke is.
It's so bad. It's barely a joke.
It's really not a joke.
Not
we
a
all
joke.
can do this.
So in another one of our favorite studies, researchers had pairs of strangers walk into the lab together. And they put these pairs of strangers into 2 conditions. In one condition, they had them watch a humorous film clip. So something like what you just watched, 60 seconds of people breaking and laughing. In the other condition, they had people watch a neutral film clip. So think a nature documentary or something like that. So the difference between these 2 rooms, the only difference, is that in one condition, these strangers had laughed together before taking on this experience. In the other condition, they hadn't. Researchers, after these film clips, asked participants to share a bit of personal information with the other person. So just share a bit about yourself. And because behavioral science is a little bit creepy, they also had a big wall of tinted glass where they had researchers standing behind it, just watching people making observations. And what they found was that individuals in the humorous clip condition shared on average 30% more personal information than in the other condition. And what's more, they also rated these conversations as more intimate and authentic. So think about how many new people you meet, how many interviews you're in, or new colleagues that you meet. And we'd never really think about infusing just a moment of laughter or levity in those early moments. But what we find from the research and also from our work that we do with leaders is that these small shifts can have a really significant impact on how we interact with each other. Now, there is neuroscience to why this is happening. This is not just psychology. This is because when we laugh, whether we are in a room together laughing or whether we are across the world from each other on a Zoom call laughing together, our brains release this cocktail of healthy hormones that change not just how we feel and how we think, but also how we behave with other people. So for example, when we laugh, our brains release endorphins, giving us a feeling similar to a runner's high. We also lower our release of cortisol. So we feel less stressed, we feel a bit more creative, similar to 10 minutes of meditation. And lastly, we release dopamine. So we get this pleasure hit that we also get during certain types of physical touch. And so in essence, as far as our brains are concerned, laughing is like exercising, meditating, and having sex at the same time.
Very efficient.
It's logistically much simpler, yes.
HR is fine. Fine with it.
HR loves it. Now, these neurological changes also have health impacts. So we've all heard the phrase, laughter is the best. Drop it into the chat. Laughter is the best. That's right, medicine. Well, as it turns out, drum roll, please, medicine is the best medicine. So just that feels important to say here and now, but laughter does really help. And this is because laughter increases our blood flow. It has all of these positive benefits. It makes us more resilient to stress. And so laughter does actually make us more resilient.
All right, but here's the problem. So now you have at least a snippet of science. The problem is that we've all of us have fallen off this global humor cliff. So Naomi and I have worked with Gallup over the years, and Gallup asked people, 1.4 million people globally, did you smile or laugh a lot yesterday? At 16, 18, 20, the answer is yes, and it starts to decline precipitously around 23, and it doesn't pick up until 80.
But that's good. We have that to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, average life expectancy is 76, so it hopefully we'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
But and we know it's not we know it's work. We know it's when people go to work and take themselves so seriously that that's where it does drop off, because when you ask the exact same question on weekends, you get a scaling effect. So people are smiling and laughing a lot, not just but just not on weekdays. So we're going to go through a little 3-stop journey.
So first, be human. This course is not about being funny. It's not about becoming a comedian. It's about having more humanity. Jennifer showed that chart about how we laugh way more on the weekends than we do on the weekday. This is really about integrating and becoming more authentic. Second is know your humor style. So we've done research over the last 10 years to uncover these 4 humor styles. We're going to go over them and ask you to guess what your style is. And lastly, tell the truth with levity. We're going to borrow a technique from the world of comedy, and then you're gonna see how we apply this lesson in one of our activities in the course. So with that, let's dive into Be Human. One of our favorite guests who visited our class here at Stanford was Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. And Secretary Albright shared many stories with our students, but one of them was about a time when she was negotiating with the Russian foreign minister. She had this important negotiation coming up in about a week. And about a week before the negotiation, she found out that the Russian government had been bugging the US State Department. Now, this is a serious breach in international diplomacy. And so now Secretary Albright had to not only have the important conversation about the negotiation, but she also had to have this other really important high stakes conversation about the bugging. So what did she do? She had her talking points. She was highly prepared, but very importantly, she walked into that meeting with the Russian foreign minister wearing a huge bug pin. I mean, really, really big bug pin. And she said, I looked at him, I looked at the pin, I looked back at him. He looked at me, he looked at the pin, he looked back at me. And in her words, she said he couldn't help but smile. That it shifted the tone of the moment, not just for fun, but in a way that allowed them to be more effective together. Now, if you know much about Secretary Albright, or even just a little, you probably know that pins were an authentic passion of hers. She loved collecting pins, and she used them in many different circumstances to signal things, either to the public or to the person who she was interfacing with. And so this was really authentically something that she loved. And we love this next graph that you'll see, or this image, who you feel you can be at work, everything that makes you special. And in the middle is where the magic happens. So this is not about these huge gestures that are fun and funny. It's really about what do you authentically love and how do you bring that in a way that feels more human. So how does this show up at work? We have our students, we always give our students just a couple of real tactical hacks for how you can be more human on a day-to-day basis. So first, this is really simple. Ask better questions. Instead of what do? What do you love to do? Instead of what did you do this weekend? What's something that lit you up? Or if you know something about their family, ask something specifically about the kids. Hey, how was the show last week? I know that Maddie was the lead in the play. So really asking more specific questions and listening to the answers. Second is making callbacks. So a callback is really simply, does anyone know what a callback is and want to drop it into the chat? A call or drop a callback into the chat. That's what we'll do. So a callback is very simply where you make reference to some specific that was given earlier. And so I might make a reference, if I'm writing an email to Jennifer after this webinar, I might say, hey, how's your pet frog? Again, the bar is really low, but it's just taking a specific moment of levity or of connection and calling back to it later. And lastly, use serendipitous sign off. So everyone drop into the chat, what is the word or phrase in an email that you write before your name? What's that word or phrase that you write before your name? Cheers, with joy, thanks, thank you, kind regards, cheers, best, best regards, best, best, kind regards, best. What does best even mean? Are you the best? Am I the best? Why do I need to tell you that? Best is in many ways the worst. And notice how we have so many examples that are perfectly warm, but completely generic. And so this is such a beautiful opportunity to infuse just a little bit of levity. So for example, if you are dialing in today, for those folks who are dialing in from Dubai right now at 4:30 a.m., you might sign off your next email with yours heavily caffeinated. If you've been going back and forth on something forever and you just want it to be over, you might sign off with, let's never speak of this again, or simply, I'm the best, because sometimes you got to let people know, just be real. And so the goal here, again, it's not to be funny, it's to just infuse a bit more humanity. So we encourage you to think about how can you shift moments from transactional to authentic? Use small interstitial moments, not as opportunities to pass the time, right? How are you? How was your weekend? But as opportunities to really create connection or serendipity. Ask better questions, create callbacks, and use serendipitous callbacks. And if you're feeling really bold, we encourage you to create your bug pin moment. Think about something that's high stakes or really important to you in the next moment, and think about how can you infuse a bit of authentic humanity into that moment.
Fantastic. Second thing is really knowing your humor style. So many individuals think that being funny is the same thing as being humorous. It is not. You can actually think of yourself as very unfunny, but you have a humor style. I was voted the least funny person, by the way, in my family after the dog, like a long ways down. And even I have a humor style. And so the question is, what is it? So as Naomi referenced before, we have found that there's 4 different very fundamental styles that are robust across cultures, across demographics, etc. So I'm going to share what those 4 are, and you're going to think, what is my dominant humor style? And then we're going to ask you to put it into the chat. The first is stand up. These individuals are bold and irreverent. They're natural entertainers. They come alive in front of a crowd. They tend to be pretty extroverted. They are unafraid to ruffle a few feathers to get a laugh, so they're great for roasts. All right. Then there are sweethearts. They are warm, inclusive, and understated. They keep it PG-13. They probably don't think of themselves as funny, but if you look at how they use humor, they use it in this very sort of inclusive way. Then there's snipers. They are dry, edgy, sarcastic, masters of the deadpan delivery. It's hard to make them laugh, but when you do, you feel great. They're unafraid to cross the line to get a laugh. And then there's magnets. They walk into the room, they're uplifting, expressive, charismatic. They are generous with their laughter. They're unafraid to be silly. They might have gotten feedback that they might use humor too much. I love Parasies, which is nagmet, which is some new form of magnet. It's fantastic. All right, so pop into the chat if you have not already and write down what is your humor style.
Ooh.
Now, I've got actually, we've got a good
We
demonstration.
do have a good mix here.
Yeah.
Yep. All styles represented.
Yes, even a bit of stand up there. Fantastic. Now, by the way, not if you want to have data to tell you your actual humor style, just go to humorseriously.com and take a 3-minute quiz and you will get a PDF of what your style is. I also encourage you to do this with your whole team and your family members. So there was one time when one of our twin boys was 16 and used a lot of serial killer jokes at home, like Ted Bundy kind of
Yikes.
jokes. And as a mom, it's concerning. Like, what is the therapy future look for us? I forced/invited my entire family to take the humor style quiz. Found out Devin was a sniper sweetheart. And all of a sudden, the way that his humor landed all shifted completely for me. And the way that we had dinner conversations and the way that we could authentically connect was so much better. So understand your style. Also understand the style of those around you. And even just asking people to take the humor style quiz signals this is important to you. Now we find that all of our guests in class take the humor style quiz, and we find out that, for example, Richard Branson is a stand-up, and Sarah Blakely, CEO of Spanx and Sneaks, is for sure a magnet. Madeline Albright, as you probably know now, is a sniper. So what style are you, and how does that show up in the stories that you share, and the ways that you interact with others? So for example, Sarah Blakely comes to the class and she says that she could not get her first product, Spanx, into any store. It was a bizarre product. She decides she's going to mail one shoe in a shoebox to the Neiman Marcus buyer with a little note, just saying, just trying to get my foot in the door, have 5 minutes to chat. And she reports back to the students that he immediately called her. She got Spanx into the store, and the rest is history. So that is a very magnet type of story that she would unlock. It allows you to move forward on your goals in a way that's aligned and authentic. But remember, each of these styles have downsides as well. So for example, if you're a sniper stand-up, you might tease as a sign of affection, but it might not land that way. So in those cases, you want to shift to a secondary style like magnet or sweetheart. So we will leave this with you later, but just simple ways to de-risk your risk and minimize those downsides. One of them is simply, when in doubt, don't. A second favorite one is never ask, will this make me sound funny? Always ask, how will this make others feel? So these simple ways can allow you to minimize the risk and maximize the upside. Understand your humor style, understand it of those around you, and then be open to shifting your style.
All right, tell the truth with levity. It's easy when we're trying to have more humor in our lives to think, okay, I have to look around and find things that are funny. In fact, this is often a way to sort of step in it or not have humor that lands very well. Instead, think about telling the truth with levity. So at the heart of comedy is truth. We often laugh because we think, oh, I've done that or I've seen that before. It resonates with our experience. And so I'm going to show you a couple of examples of simple observations, and we'll notice how comedians have escalated those observations to create humor. So for our European colleagues and our American colleagues, or if you've ever worked with folks in Europe and the US, this might resonate. Europeans out of offices, I will not be working until 18 September. All emails will be automatically deleted. Americans, I am in the hospital. Email responses may be delayed by up to 30 minutes. Sorry for the inconvenience. If urgent, please reach me in the ER at. Right? So just a simple observation that work culture is very different in Europe versus in the US. And then they took a bit of contrast to dial up that humor, right? A bit of contrast. All right, comedian Sarah Cooper visited our class, and she made the observation that Delta seats feel like they keep getting smaller and smaller. So she made this Delta's new seating chart, which you can see has economy comfort, economy discomfort, economy agony, economy 2 the reckoning, where is your God now economy, Satan's dead economy, and finally just poop. So again, a simple observation. It's just true that airplane seats feel like they keep getting smaller and smaller. And she created a bit of exaggeration from that observation. By the way, this is such a reality that humor comes from truth that there's a show called Lie Detector where people are hooked up to lie detectors, asked really simple questions, and it's pretty much always true. So let's look at comedian Hassan Minhaj hooked up to a lie detector.
Do you think your parents have a favorite child?
Yes,
Well, who is it?
100%. So mom, I'm my mom's favorite child, and Aisha's my dad's favorite child.
Does that hurt your feelings?
No, I love it. You know, we all know that like your mother's love is the thing you vie for the most. It has the most like value. You know how like it's like USD, whereas a father's love is like Bitcoin. It's just like esoteric and like doesn't matter. We don't even know if it matters.
So you like your mom more than your dad?
100%, yes. Way more.
He's telling the truth.
A lot more.
Okay, so how does this show up at work? Oops. When if we all come back for a second to March 2020, Naomi and I have a dear friend and CEO that we work with, Connor Demon. He was running his first ever all hands offsite on Zoom. He had never done it before, was highly nervous. He's looking at 100 faces online. He decides to pass the baton after 5 minutes of speaking to his co-founder and inadvertently leaves his screen share on. He goes over to Google and he starts typing in things inspirational leaders say during hard times. Then he comes back and he commences like, I want you to know that you can trust me. And he started like seeing this like crack up of 100 faces, crying, laughing. And, he carries on. People came back to him afterwards and said, that was the first time that I have laughed in weeks. Thank you so much for just doing that. Let it really sink in. That was free. There was no risk. And all he was doing was actually sharing some of his truth, reading the room, and then constructing that with levity. So all we have to do is really don't look what's funny, just notice what's true, and then add some levity. This is not about being a comedian. This is just about understanding what is needed in the moment. And as Naomi said, hint about contrast, exaggeration, and analogies. They are absolutely gold.
So in closing, we're going to jump to a couple of closing tips, takeaways, and quick wins. And then we're going to pass over to Spencer. But first, a quick story. So another one of our favorite guests in class was Sir Richard Branson. And Sir Richard Branson shared with us the story of the founding of the Elders. Now, the Elders is a group of independent global leaders. So founding members included Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Kofi Annan, President Jimmy Carter, and all of these people from around the world come together to solve some of the world's most intractable issues. So when this group was first forming, they were all flying into Richard's private island. Now, about 3 days before everyone was set to arrive, Richard's team came to do the final prep. And they had a stack of PowerPoint slides that they put on the table in front of Richard. And they said, Richard, we've got every moment of this agenda planned out. We've got PowerPoint slides. We've got research and data. It's going to be fantastic. And he flipped through every single page. He said, this is great. It's fantastic. I just need you to make one change. I need you to cut it in half. And they said, well, what do you mean cut it in half? Are the elders only coming for half the time? He said, no, this is so important. These issues are so heavy that it needs to be half work time and half playtime. And so they completely reoriented the agenda. They had half of the time that was focused on these PowerPoint decks, on the issues, and half of the time that was things like long walks on the beach, swimming lessons, competitions that they had in the sand. And it was later Richard's team who said it was during the playtime where the real work happened. And in particular, they told about a time when Archbishop Desmond Tutu and President Jimmy Carter were sitting on the beach together, their toes dug into the sand, laughing, that they came up with the founding principles of the elders that Nelson Mandela would later share out into the world. And so we want to end this portion by just saying it's easy to believe that if we take our lives and our mission seriously, the presence of humor betrays that mission. But we find from the research that the opposite is true, that the balance of gravity and levity give power to both. And so our quick takeaways and wins: be human, tap into what elevates you and others, know your humor style, take the quiz at humorseriously.com and share it with others, tell the truth with levity, navigate your life on the precipice of a smile. Now, if those don't feel tactical enough for you, then you are in luck, because you're going to have a very special session today with our very special course facilitator, Spencer Porter, doing one of the activities that our students actually do in this LEAD class, and it's called Bio with Levity. So in this exercise, we have our students share their serious bio, and then they try and incorporate some levity into that bio. Now, there are a couple of tips for how to do this. For example, you definitely want to strike the right balance. You don't want to trade levity for substance. You want to choose your content strategically, showing a really broad constellation of who you are, and of course, self-deprecate with caution. And so we're going to hand it over to Spencer now, who's going to give you a taste of what this is like for our students.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. As Naomi mentioned, I am Spencer Porter. I'm one of the course facilitators for this course. I am a TV writer, screenwriter, and speechwriter here in Los Angeles, and I use all of that knowledge to help inform all of our participants here. I'm going to share my screen, and I will ask the question that so many have asked. You have already asked you in the last year. Can you see my screen? There it is. I'm actually going to walk you through just the course breakdown, all the work that we kind of go through in the course, and then I will invite Tiffany, one of my past participants, one of my favorites, if I'm being absolutely honest, and she's going to come on screen, and we're gonna live edit her bio, a new version of her bio. I just saw it this week. I'm very excited to show you all. So the first, I kind of think of the course in kind of three phases, and all of it I want to preface by just saying it's a safe space to try things out. This is, in many ways, we're trying. Humor is a muscle. Levity is a muscle. Authentic speech is a muscle, and we want you to try it. Not everything is going to work, and that is okay. The hardest part, the absolute hardest part of writing, is writing that first word, right? We've all seen the blank screen. It is tough to get off that blank screen. And so the first modules are all about that. It's just looking at who you are. You know, what is your profile? What is your humor style? You've already done the humor style quiz. You're already ahead of the game. Look at that. We then get into looking at what self do you show up with at work? What self do you show up with at home? Are there any connections between those two? What are the sports you like to play? What hobbies do you have? All of those things inform who you are, and we can use some of that in your authentic wording, in your authentic speech. We then get into your bio. We'll come back to that. We will write a bio together, and we'll take those bios. Sometimes the bios are pretty bland, and we want you to stand out. In many ways, I think about the bio. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to get ahead of myself. That's okay. I love the bio part. In many ways, I think of the bio not so much as how you want to communicate to the world, but how will somebody else think of you in their head 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now? What stays with them? What sticks? And if you just write, "I'm a VP at Google," is that going to stick? Or are they going to remember that you were a rower back in high school and you love to row every Saturday morning out on the calm water? That's probably going to stick a little bit better. And it probably informs who you are as a person a little bit more. Okay, we'll come back to that. I got ahead of myself. I'm so sorry. We then get into making mundane moments memorable. So this is, we get locked into routines sometimes, right? We get to the airport, we scan the ticket, we got our screen. The kids are young, so you give them a screen. But I was in the Puerto Vallarta airport about 6 months ago, and the Lego had a vending machine of Legos that you could buy for your kids right there. Get them off the screen. That was a great example of real world levity applied to a business context, which I thought was really well done. So we're going to get into that. What can you bring to your organization that brings a little bit of levity into the workplace? Then we then get into our leadership handbook. And I kind of think of this as like, how do you want to be treated? We often think about how do you want to treat your colleagues at work, but how can they communicate with you so that you're the most effective you can be? And then we get into the guiding principles and your levity list. Basically, who you are as a person, as a 360-degree view of yourself as a person, who you are as a leader, how you communicate, and what is that humor style, and how can they all work together to form the most complete person you can be. Okay, Tiffany, are you here? I know you're here. I'm looking at you right now.
I am here.
Hello, Tiffany. We're going to look at your bio here. And I'm gonna invite you all in the chat to, if you got some fun lines to pitch us, please do pitch those lines. We are here to to hear what you have to say. This is part of it. So Tiffany has a great bio here. Tiffany doesn't wait for alignment, she builds it. Very strong opening line. I love that. We get a design executive with strategist instincts. She's known for stepping into ambiguity and emerging with a clear, actionable vision. At demand-based, she arrived with a blueprint for how AI could transform the go-to-market experience, turning software into a smart feed that not only helps teams do their jobs, but trains them into experts along the way. The CEO backed it, the teams are building it, and Tiffany's leading from the front. Strong, very strong. I love this opening. I have some ideas of how to kind of adjust it, but what I want to show off right here is that Tiffany has something in the writer's world that we call a rule of three. This is a beautiful pattern where you establish a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so she sets up a pattern there with the first two things of the CEO back that the teams are building it, and she connects it back to herself and what she does. And Tiffany's leading from the front. I think you can actually go even further with that rule of three. We'll come back to that. Her approach is rooted in deep systems thinking, sharpened by the Stanford LEAD program. Thank you for the shout out, Tiffany. And shaped across roles at IDEO, Salesforce, and Pendo, where she led mobile developer tools and AI-powered product innovation. Whether she's designing team structures or untangling product strategy, Tiffany brings a calm rigor and just enough irreverence to keep things human. She's launched startups, prototype ideas in hours, and authored children's books using generative tools, not to chase novelty, but to scale our creativity with intent. If there's a problem that requires clarity, speed, and a strong dose of creative constraint, she's probably already mapping it in Figma. Want to work with her? Come with a big, messy idea and a good reason why it matters. First off, Tiffany, this is great. There's so much here to work with. What I would suggest, though, is that, and I have some things here, is that we start with clarity. Start with as much clarity as we can, and then work in kind of the more intricate details of your life. So Tiffany doesn't wait for alignment, she builds it. Love that opening line. Great opening line. Very strong, very action-oriented words. But I do think you should have, what is your title? As the blank at blank, she does blank. We're friends on LinkedIn. I saw what you do. As the vice president of user experiments of demand-based, she acts. So what is it that you think you would want to put there? Like, what is the thing that you're most proud of? What is the thing that gets you excited about when you talk to people about your job?
For me, it's connecting really abstract things into a cohesive, concrete, end-to-end experience.
That's great. That's perfect. I think that's exactly what you should put. Yeah.
Okay. I'll watch this recording later.
I'll send it to you. Don't worry. And then I did think that maybe there's a clearer way of saying turning software into a smart feed. I wasn't quite sure. Maybe using software to build a smart feed, something like that. And then my only thought here with this rule of three is this: can we get the repetition of the structure of these sentences? The CEO is backing it, the teams are building it, and Tiffany is leading it. 1, 2, 3. Really bang home that repetition. What I really like about this, though, is that you start with yourself, you get into what you do, and then you end with yourself. You complete that circle, which again, and I'm going to kind of
self-absorbed there.
Say it again. Sorry.
Oh, completely self-absorbed there.
That's okay. It's your bio. You can be self-absorbed in a bio. That's part of the game here. And by the way, you can use your bio for many different things. This is just one version of the bio. I have maybe 5 different versions of my bio, depending on how much I want to say Stanford in the bio, right? You can adjust it for the audience. My only thought on the irreverence line is that in general, when people talk about how they're funny, and I do want to point out that you are a humorous, funny person. Can you give us an example of how you show up instead of just saying that you do show up in a humorous way or an authentic way? What is that way that you can do that? Is there a detail that you can use? I thought you might be able to reword this instead of, built prototypes in hours, something like that. Instead of prototyped ideas in hours. At first, I thought hours was like a new startup or a new sort of software that you were using. Anyway. And then at the very end, and this is where I need your help, want to work with her, come with a big messy idea and a good reason why it matters. Can we use a callback? Can we bring something from that top piece back into here? Like, what is this, detail that we can use from your life that we can put back in there? Is it your child, you're writing a children's book? Could it be that? Is there some other detail that you haven't mentioned that you want to get out there?
Yeah, this is where the older one had a really nice callback to I mentioned earlier about in the rule of threes, pulling a tick out of my daughter's neck, and then at the end I called back.
I remember that. That was great.
Yeah, that was. Maybe I'll try to work it back in there.
I mean, we all have to be concerned about Lyme disease these days. It is
I know.
on the rise.
I'll
So,
help
you know,
not
but
have Lyme disease.
exactly. I mean, stuff like that that is authentic to your experience, authentic wording that allows you to connect with people, that actually matters quite a bit. Because again, like what I'm going to take away from this long after this recording ends isn't your what you've done and all those things. It's one detail. It's one funny turn of phrase. It's one concrete action that you've taken in your life that I can connect to. And if you're able to give me that and then reinforce it at the end, that's probably what I'm gonna learn from this, that I'm gonna take away. Maybe it is that you're good at pulling ticks out of your children's skin. I mean, that's a little out there, but you in this class we can try that. And what's great about this is that with the bios that you have a peer partner that also can read these and sort of be that feedback and part of that feedback loop. But Tiffany, excellent job. I knew you'd crush it. You always do. 9 times out of 10, these bios are actually quite tame, and I'm the one who's got to be pushing it. For you, it's a little bit different. It's more shaping what details you do want to include because you're so great with bringing those authentic details that are perfect for your life.
And I appreciate all of the feedback, and he does give a lot of the feedback. I think that this course, out of any, and I'll get into it later, has the best course facilitators of all of the courses that I've taken in the Stanford LEAD. Shout out to not only Spencer, who is the GOAT, you know, there's so many, Lauren,
Swati,
Noel, everybody. Yeah, I mean, I think they were
our
so
team.
amazing.
You delivered that script perfectly. I'm so glad I sent it ahead of time. That was great. No, thank you so much, Tiffany. This is awesome. And I will pass it back to Naomi.
Thank you, Tiffany. Fabulous. And I think we're actually going to hear from some ambassadors, including Tiffany. I think you're going to come back onto the stage.
I don't have to introduce myself anymore.
Yeah. All right, so the goal of this portion, we've asked each of the ambassadors to prepare a couple of minutes of remarks about themselves and about their journey in the course. So we're really excited to hear from the two of you, and let's start with Andrea.
So hi everyone from the cold and dark Austria in Europe. Actually, it's 1:53 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
It's always worth to stay up for you. So I'm really glad that I'm here. Actually, it's quite a while when I take the course. So just to introduce myself, I lead innovation and sustainability at EVN. We are an internationally active energy company and based in Austria, Europe. And as you can imagine, it's quite hard in this time, especially in the energy. We have now the war time. We had energy pricing rising up 10x, really difficult times. And when I took the class, I thought I could use some levity, but actually the last 5 years, it really helped, Our company was quite stressed. The whole environment was quite stressed, and each part of humor, each kind of levity helps, I would say. So in this case, it really paid off. And actually, when I started to take the course, I'm an engineer, I'm a chemical engineer. I'm used to train to focus on data and, don't say any unnecessary word. So as you can imagine, I was a sniper, quite clear, always ready for the punchline. But I also have some warmth in me. And so I tried to go a little bit on the left side, and to get a magnet as much as I can. I'm an introvert, actually, so I'm maybe more the sweetheart. But what I also learned is that you don't have to be the funniest person in the room. Yeah, I will never be. But as a leader, I have a lot of very funny persons around. And actually, it's my responsibility to create the environment that those people can flourish and help to elevate the room, to make it easier for everybody to take part in the whole journey. And this is what I focus on. I'm not the one to deliver the jokes, but I laugh first when somebody does. Yeah, and really, and with a warm smile. And what I learned is really that humor helps. It's not about starting with the data, it's about starting with the connection. And I think this is even more important now in the age of AI, where data and analysis can be with one mouse click. You need to focus on being human again. And this is what you focused already years ago. And it's more relevant than ever because this is our USB as a human. Yeah, to have the connection, to elevate. And actually, this is what you learn in this course.
Beautifully
Yeah,
said.
to do that. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Andrea, you said a couple of things that I just want to highlight that are so core to the class. One, starting with connection, especially in this world, a big question of the course is what makes us uniquely human and how can we keep that connection, humanity. Second is about shifting your style. So you talked about you're inherently a sniper, but this is really about recognizing what you are and being able to shift based on your goals. And then third, you talked about creating a culture of levity, not being the funniest person in the room, but elevating other people. And all of those are such core parts of the class. So thank you for sharing. All right,
You're
we'd love
welcome.
and oh, Jennifer, did you have something to say before?
No, I was just gonna pass it to Tiffany.
Sure. Um, I'm Tiffany. You all saw my bio from that segment before. I loved this course. I definitely came in with some different expectations of, I was severely disappointed that I wasn't going to be a stand-up comedian at the end of it. But I think that pushing your authentic self within every interaction, not only at work, but even at home. Jennifer's example of being the least funny person in her family resonated with me really, really hard of like, especially as you have kids that are growing up and you try to do this and they're like, oh, just stop, you can't. But I feel like bringing levity even into, especially in the technology field where sometimes it looks really bleak, like a lot of jobs get cut and AI just feels like overwhelming. I think that trying to stay positive and focusing on something that feels a bit lighter and just acknowledging what's happening in a way that you're just observing something that's happening can really go a long way for your team, for the everyone that you're interacting with. I think that I maybe like I love the idea of having to uh, think to yourself, how is this going to land with the rest of, how is it going to make people feel? And I think that's something I think about a lot rather than just blurting out the first joke that comes into mind, which is my natural inclination. Maybe that's the sniper part of it. So I got a lot out of it, and even just being able to type out some of the different stories and pulling from threads from a long time ago, that was one of the activities before you even get to the humorous part, really helped me connect in with why I am the way I am. Maybe that's not a humorous thing, but I felt like that was super valuable for me as a person to spend some time and even think about stories from a really long time ago. I know I had one of my grandfather and changing a tire, and I feel like all of those different stories are now much more front and center to where I am and how I lead. And so I have them at my fingertips, which is really helpful.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. One thing that's really remarkable what we said, and there's a thread of this in the chat too, which is at a moment of time when AI has shifted the way that we create workflows, and the way we actually do work. It's never been more important to understand what makes us uniquely human. And I think, Tiffany, what you said about the creativity, about the humanity, and ironically, those leaders that have a sense of humor actually do drive results, not just in the United States, but really globally. And so we have a lot of data to show that. The question is, how is the humor being used? So with that in mind, we wanted to thank you so much. And it is not all over. We are so excited to reconnect with Marina, who will take us on the next step.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, Naomi, Spencer, and Tiffany and Andrea. I'm going to keep you both around for this next segment, but thank you for such a great, engaging session. And to all of you that joined, we hope that this gave you just a small taste of what you can expect from Stanford LEAD. And we'd like to invite you to continue exploring the program and to apply. So first up, we have a panel discussion with Andrea and Tiffany coming up in just a moment, so we hope that you'll stick around for that. And as you continue to explore LEAD, keep in mind that our next cohort is starting the program in March. Now, you can apply now, and you have a bit of time until that deadline on February 4th to do so, although applications are reviewed on a rolling basis. So I encourage you to go ahead and get your applications in sooner, get everything in place so that you're all set and ready to go in March. And if you have any questions about the program, whether that will be about payment options for tuition, application process, or anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. You'll reach myself or one of the wonderful folks on this call with LEAD team in front of our names, and we're happy to help. And we do hope that we'll have a chance to learn a bit more about you and your goals for pursuing the LEAD program through your applications, and that perhaps we'll have a chance to welcome you to LEAD and to the GSB community in March. So thank you again for participating in this session, and Jennifer, Naomi, and Spencer for leading us in that discussion. So at this point, we'll go ahead and transition to this panel discussion with Andrea and Tiffany, who have very kindly volunteered their time and will be sticking around with us today. While you heard them share about their outcomes from the new type of leader course just a few moments ago, they've both completed the full 8-course program, and they're here to share a bit more about their overall experience and outcomes. So over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll hear a bit more from them about why they chose to pursue LEAD, how it's impacted their personal and their professional growth. We'll talk about how they made it work with very busy schedules, and they'll also share their tips and insights on how you can make the most out of your own LEAD journey. Now, as we move through the discussion, if you have any questions that are a bit more administrative in nature, our team is happy to take those in the chat. So feel free to drop those in there. We'll respond to you there. All right, but with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And I know that many of you on this call are actively thinking about the next steps in your own professional and personal development journey. And I hope that you'll find the discussion here today useful as you think about how LEAD can help you achieve your goals. And actually, our panelists were in your shoes not that long ago, considering enrolling in the program themselves. So I'll open it up by asking them to share with us why they chose to pursue Stanford LEAD. And Andrea, I know that was a few years ago for you, but let's start with you.
Yeah, so thank you. So actually, I was one of the first cohorts to participate 10 years ago already. And for me, the decision was actually very simple. I always wanted to learn from the best. So I had to choose between an MBA in elsewhere, somewhere, or the LEAD course. Yeah? And then it was clear for me to do the LEAD course, not to learn from people who took the ideas and presented to me, but from the ones who actually made them, you know. And this was the reason I decided to join here.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea. And Tiffany, how about you? Why did you choose to pursue LEAD?
So I chose to pursue lead because I wanted to fill in the gap of my, like, more of the business sense. Yes, I learned a lot of stuff on the job. I think the business model and the financial innovation courses were ones that really attracted me to the course, as well as the online nature of it. It's with I had to travel a lot when I was applying, both East Coast, West Coast, and it's just easier to catch the Zooms rather than having the requirement of being in person. But I know not everyone has this choice, but I wanted something that if it was closer to my house, I'm in San Mateo, I could get to the Stanford campus pretty easily. Sometimes there's like the Me Too We thing is right here. That didn't actually weigh into my consideration, but maybe it should. It's really nice to see people in person. So having the ability to get to the campus and participate in some of those like lead from the top kind of, or view from the top sessions, which are in person, is so I wanted something local, but something that I didn't have to actually be in person. I have two small kids, so trying to juggle that with full-time job and trying to start something on my own, there's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So the Stanford Lead seemed like a really good way to get to those professors and also get the most out of it, be able to participate.
Yeah, well, thank you both. It's super helpful to hear about kind of the different factors that weighed into your decision and in discovering that LEAD was the right program for you. So we appreciate you sharing. I want to move on now to talk a bit about impact. Now, at Stanford GSB, many of you might already be familiar with our motto, which is to change lives, change organizations, and change the world. And so our programs are designed to deliver impact. And for over the last 10 years, starting with Andrea's cohort to the one that just most recently started a couple of months ago, LEAD participants have reported incredibly strong results, both on a personal and professional level. So in addition to experiencing growth in their careers, there are countless stories of participants who have successfully launched and scaled new projects, new initiatives, new ventures, leveraging their learnings from LEAD, and those who have completely transformed not just their own mindset, but also influenced those of their teams and their organization. So Andrea and Tiffany, I'd love to just take a moment to focus on your outcomes from the program. Can you each tell us a bit about how you and your organization have experienced the impact of LEAD? And Tiffany, we'll start with you.
Sure. So for me, very much so, it has strongly impacted, even though it was only maybe it's a few years ago at this point. But going into this role of vice president at Demandbase, I came at it with a very different mindset. So I will say from this new type of leader, as well as building power to lead and the living a life of consequence, I feel like between those three have really shaped how I think about how I lead. And so going into this new role, I hit the ground running really quickly. I've only been in the company for 4 months, but I'm able to set a vision for the company and kind of owning that space. And so I feel like Stanford LEAD has helped me with that journey and being able to speak very directly and ask for what I need from the job that I have was definitely an outcome of the Stanford LEAD program.
Amazing. And congratulations, Tiffany, on that. Andrea, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's quite hard actually because it's 10 years ago and I evolved so much. So actually, I just got back and watched at my videos and contributions to see what person I was then, 10 years ago. And actually, I was an innovator at this time, innovating for me and helping a little bit other people. And then I became a person whose mission is to help people to shape the future. And now actually I build systems that they can help themselves to build the future, you know. So I really took all the tools to scale myself and to scale my impact. And what it also did is that I really design by design and by intent. So when I do something, I always prototype. I sketch something, I make a prototype story before I put effort in. And I try and I see what is the reaction, and then I move on very fast and very quickly. So this is I build in everything I do by design and by intent, I would say, and really scaling up the impact. So I have a clear mission now, and also my team has a clear mission. We are there to help, you know, people shape the future with the tools, but also with the momentum and the clarity to do so. So everybody who comes around and wants to do something meaningful, we can provide support. And this is what we do as a mission. So this also helped to get me clarity. And yeah, it's you cannot really, I cannot bring all the examples. It just really, and you have to believe me somehow to become the leader I am today. And this would not have been possible without LEAD. And I think it's a good thing. I always do the courses. You know, I did the courses 10 years ago, but occasionally every 1, 2 years, I do a fresh up course, you know, to stay connected. And I really got engaged, learning, going on. Yeah, this is what I learned.
Yeah, that's great and super inspirational to hear about how you were able to scale your impact, but still, as we heard from Naomi and Jennifer, stay authentic and true to yourself and who you were when you started as well. And we also hear that a lot from our past participants, that some of the outcomes are very tangible, and then other outcomes about how you have kind of evolved and grown as a person, as a leader, are a little bit less tangible, right? But as you go through that leadership growth journey, that's part of that experience. So I appreciate both of you sharing. Um, Now, as the folks on this call have probably gotten a sense by now, LEAD is anything but your typical online program, right? Lots of folks come into the LEAD program having done quite a bit of research first, like those of you on this call are doing today. And yet there are still some things that may come as a surprise once you're actually going through it. So Andrea and Tiffany, since we have a bit of time with you today, I'd love to ask each of you to share what you found to be the most surprising or unexpected aspect about the program. And Andrea, let's go ahead and start with you on this one.
Okay, so when you think of Stanford, you think of tech, and you think of, you know, a lot of competence and you know, data and things like that. And so I was actually very surprised how deeply this program focuses on human and human connection, and on trust and on leadership. I was surprised in a positive way. I did not expect that much, you know. I thought we will learn frameworks and books and, you know, but not the interpersonal stuff, what is needed. And actually also what I really appreciated, but first surprised me, was the critical thinking. I think it's more relevant than ever to do that, you know, to learn debates, to learn reasoning, to build an argument, to defend your position. Also the power course, you know, how to get influence, how to get your ideas flowing, things like that. So it's actually more a toolkit, a personal toolkit, than only learn things from the book, because you can read the book anyway. Yeah, therefore you don't need to take the Stanford course, I think.
Absolutely. And Tiffany, how about you?
So I was surprised by the network of people that I was not only like put together in the class with, but attracted to in we still get together, right? It's something that is a network of people that you can find people at Stanford LEAD that have every single interest, and maybe you find people that are interested in the same things, or maybe you find people that are interested in completely different ones, but everyone is so friendly and willing to work together, and you can always have many different side projects going on at the same time with your Stanford LEAD colleagues. I think those are like lifelong friendships that are formed online, and eventually see people in person. And it's really kind of neat to see how that grows and expands every year.
Absolutely. We love seeing the meetups all around the world and just
Yeah.
the friendships that form, people traveling, spending holidays with each other's families. It's really, really great to see that the connection goes beyond the courses and into the personal relationships as well.
Oh yeah, one thing on that, you can go anywhere in the world and there's going to be a leader there, and I mean, I see people meeting in Japan all over the place, so that's pretty fun.
And you're very highly welcome everywhere where you go and meet up.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
really,
Over 110 countries that you can choose
yeah,
from that are represented in the
yeah.
program. That's right. All right. Well, I've seen a little bit of chatter in the chat about this actually. So it's well timed, and I want to take a moment to focus on the program schedule and the flexibility. Now, as you've heard from Andrea and Tiffany, and lead participants lead very full lives with lots of professional commitments and personal commitments as well. And this program was conceived and designed with this in mind so that it offers you enough flexibility so that you can make it work with your day-to-day schedule. Now, when we look at the full program, it runs over a period of 1 year. It's part-time, fully online. And on average, participants are investing about 5 to 10 hours per week to complete the program requirements. Now, as you can see from the schedule displayed on your screen, the year-long program is divided into 4 quarters that run for about 8 to 9 weeks each, and then you get a break of about 3 to 4 weeks between the quarters. And I've seen a couple of questions about the format. And while the full program runs fully online, there are some self-paced elements and some live elements with weekly deadlines and deliverables. There's also lots of informal opportunities to connect in person. But in terms of the requirements for the program, that will be fully online for these 8 courses. And most participants will take 2 courses at a time to complete that 8 course requirement in 1 year. Although you do have the option to scale that back to 1 course at a time so that your time commitment is a bit closer to about 3 to 5 hours per week. And you can also take a temporary leave of absence if you need to, right? 1 year is a long time. Unexpected things can happen. So you can take a temporary pause in the program if you need to and extend your enrollment for up to 2 years. Now, there are lots of different ways to make this work with your schedule. And in my conversations with our past participants, it's very clear that everyone has kind of their own way of making this work. But I would love for us to be able to hear from our panelists. So, Andrea and Tiffany, can you share some insights with us about how you made it work with your schedule and your commitments? And Tiffany, let's go ahead and have you share first.
Sure. I will say I remember answering this question. It wasn't everyone's favorite answer, is I just had a lot less sleep. And I definitely, so I think 5 to 10 hours you get out of the program what you put in. So if you are spending time getting to know individuals in the program and you're working on a project that you're like, some of the coursework can be applied very directly to your life. If you're doing a project that's tying it in to your work, it you could spend a lot more time doing that, but you have the outcome of it's also for work. So some of how I position some of the projects is making sure that I could make that project work for me in the real world, and then it's like you're getting double the benefit out of it. You're doing the coursework and you're applying it immediately to what you're doing in the real world. So I think that helped, but I think sometimes I did like the flexibility. Sometimes there was time zones that were not necessarily Pacific. I might have to join that one. If I have meetings all day, I would join a different one. And I like that flexibility of being able to jump in, and then you meet a whole different set of people because they're in a completely different country or time zone than you are. So I really appreciated that flexibility. But I definitely needed a little break after the year. I did some of my cohort, the original, they did spread it out over like maybe 2 years or something and taking one course at a time so that they could really focus on that one thing and get as much out of it as possible. I mean, there's pros and cons. Like I wanted to get it done so that I could complete it and then I could decide if I wanted to take more courses moving forward. But you do get to meet more people and different cohorts if you spread it out. So that's a real positive.
Definitely. And I've definitely heard the more you put in, the more you get out. And so I have definitely heard that reflected back to me from so many leaders. All right, Andrea, how about you?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I fully agree with Tiffany. Yeah, I could not have said it better. Uh, Absolutely. I mean, I know 10 years ago I was a little bit co-creating these flexibility issues. So I know how much you guys put in to designing it for us so that it really works, because you got a lot of feedback from us and you really heard. So it is really, I think, designed for a busy schedule. So my situation is I was 10 years ago, my son was 3 years old, and I just stepped into a leadership position, full time, all in, and it was possible. Of course, as Stephanie said, you have to make some commitment and you have to have some sacrifice. So even, for instance, when you want to be part of all the live sessions, you will have to stay up once, like I do, but I don't think it's any problem, because you get so much energy out of the course, so that it will be no problem that you do it at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I think you can stretch it as you need. You also get extensions. At least I got it when I could not make the deadline. I mean, I think you should not always do it because you want to get feedback from your course facilitators. But I think there are always possibilities that you can get things done, I think, as Tiffany said.
Absolutely. And definitely, I mean, lead is not just a significant commitment of your time, but also of energy and resources. And based on the feedback from our past participants, over 95% of them say that they find that the program was indeed worth their investment. On the financial side, the program tuition is billed in 4 quarterly installments of 4,800 US dollars, and we have options for you to spread your payments over multiple calendar years, which we hope will be helpful as you plan. And we also understand that some of you might be using tuition benefits from your employers to subsidize some of your costs. And so we hope that these options to spread your payment out over time will also help you maximize what you're able to use from those annual reimbursement caps. So we're happy to partner with you in thinking through how to structure your enrollment and your payments in a way that makes sense for you, whether you're receiving sponsorship or self-funding the program. And as you weigh how this investment fits within your own personal and professional development journey, we've asked our panelists to just candidly reflect on their own decision to join the program and what it's meant to them since. So, Andrea and Tiffany, I want to ask you, looking back, was Stanford LEAD worth the investment for you, whether that's in terms of time, money, opportunity cost? Tell us a bit about your perspective on that. And Andrea, let's have you go first.
Yes, so not I would not say was it worth the investment? Is it worth the investment? Because I'm still investing, taking courses also 10 years after. So I can just say definitely yes. I gained access to world-leading minds, not only through lectures, but also through direct interactions. We also have the opportunity for the Me2V participation. So you really get also the Stanford feeling if you can make it in person. So yeah, I think it's worth every penny or euro in my case to invest, and I'm still using it.
Thanks, Andrea. And just because Me Too We has come up a couple of times in our discussion, I just want to share with everyone on the call that might not be familiar with it what it is. Me Too We is an annual on-campus gathering for current and past LEAD participants that was actually created by members of Andrea's first cohort in the
Yeah,
program and has
I was part
become
of it.
yeah, you were part of it. And it's become an annual tradition within the community. It's designed by leaders and for leaders, but it happens on campus over the course of a few days. Faculty are there, course facilitators are there. Last year, we had over 700 past and current participants from over 50 or 60 countries on campus. So it's a really nice annual opportunity to connect in person at this big scale, in addition to all of the smaller meetups that are happening at Stanford and around the world throughout the year. So thank you both for bringing up MeetAWe. And Tiffany, I'll have you share your thoughts on this question next.
I would not be here today if I didn't think it was worth my investment. I absolutely think it was worth the investment. It did seem very high when I saw the price, but there's other. I weighed it between other MBA programs, and it's still quite a significant savings for like a Berkeley or like that. That was the one that I was looking at, and the Harvard one. But yes, it's worth it.
Thank you. Thank you both. And for the folks that are on the call with us, if you do decide that LEAD is the right next step for you, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're currently accepting applications for the cohort that will start in March. And you have until that application deadline on February 4th to apply. But like I said, I encourage you to get that application in sooner. It just gives you a bit more of a heads up to get your decision, plan ahead so that you're all ready to go by March. As a reminder, we don't have GRE or GMAT requirements for the LEAD program. There's no application fee. So if you're thinking about it, you're still on the fence, I encourage you to go ahead and get started with your application because as you go through the application process itself, some of those requirements will naturally help you think through and clarify your goals so that will help you think through that decision as well. And we do hope to receive your applications and learn a bit more about you and your goals for pursuing LEAD. And again, to welcome some of you to the LEAD program and to the GSB community in March. But as we are wrapping up, I would love to ask our panelists just one final question and one that I think will be especially helpful for those of you joining the next cohort. Andrea and Tiffany, maybe in about 30 seconds each, what's one tip or advice that you'd like to offer someone starting LEAD in March to help them get the most out of their experience? Tiffany, let's start with you.
Sure. I would say find your group. If you're not paired with the right group that is not participating in the way that you want, find the people that participate in the way that you like, whatever that is. You're an adult in this program, so there's a lot of flexibility to find the experience that you need. The worst thing is if you're with a cohort that is not exactly how you want to work and you don't get out of it your investment, get what you need out of this investment.
Thanks, Tiffany. And Andrea?
Yeah, I would say don't just take the program, use the program. So engage with your cohort, ask questions, bring your real work challenges in. Yeah, treat LEAD as your leadership laboratory. Yeah, apply everything immediately, even in small steps. Yeah, be consistent, use the office hours, use the facilitators, and co-create and don't just consume, I would say. So if you do that and really use it, you will get everything out of it.
Right. Really good advice to close us off. So, Andrea and Tiffany, thank you both so much for your time, for your insights. Andrea, for staying up so late at night to be with us. And thank you to everybody who joined us for your engagement throughout the discussion. I saw the questions in chat were flowing by, so I'm glad that you were asking those and that we were able to answer a lot of those there. As you continue to explore LEAD, don't hesitate to reach out to our team and we'd be happy to continue this conversation with you. But for today, please take good care, stay in touch, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so much.